Well, for this, I'd like to show you the Stanley Milgram clip. So, after the Milgram and Zimbardo clips, let's continue with the topic of leadership. And here are a few important questions to ask ourselves. First one is, does it really matter? Well, we noticed from the news and the newspapers that still today, yes, leadership matters. It has a lot of impact. Maybe in 50, 100, 200, 1,000 years, it will be different, but currently it's still an important topic. And therefore, we also could have discussions about what makes a good leader. Does it have to be somebody who's very tough, or actually somebody who's very kind? Should it be somebody completely focused on the target or not, etc. We can also ask ourselves, are leaders born? Nelson Mandela. Would Nelson Mandela have turned out to be a leader if he had been educated differently? Or do we say, no, this is really who he is? Or maybe Mandela wasn't born a leader at all. He was made a leader by the decisions he made in life, by things that happened, by being in jail. So continuing with that example, we can ask ourselves, do the circumstances that leaders find themselves in matter? Do these circumstances shape them? Think of Václav Havel, the former president of the Czech and Slovak Republic. Václav Havel was actually a playwright. He was busy in the theater. And when he was fighting communism and fighting the regime, he was thrown in jail. And from jail, he kept writing letters to the outside and to other people and inspiring them. And why does a person make that choice? Then when he gets out of jail and this revolution takes place in Czechoslovakia, he plays a leading role. So again, what did circumstances have to do with that? Leadership theories. There are different ones, and these four are the main we will discuss, especially contingency theories and practice-based theories. What is the individualistic or great man theory, and later on also the trait theory? Well, in that theory there is a continued fascination with great leaders. Now enter a bookshop and go to the management section or go to the self-improvement section, and you will always have titles of great leaders. In business, it will be Steve Jobs, it will be Richard Branson, it could be Ricardo Semler, it could be Angelina Jolie, it could be Oprah, etc., etc. So always books about these amazing people who did amazing things. And we read these books. Again, by the way, for those who are religious, remember how religion is set up. It also involves very often Mohammed or Jesus or the Buddha or Krishna, but somebody out there who was or is a great leader. There is a fascination with that. And in that theory, the idea basically is that a great man, because often still it's a man, that a great man is born with those capacities. Again, like the baby Jesus, born and up, great things will happen. And so, what can we learn from these great leaders if we are not great leaders ourselves? Well, read their biographies. And we say, oh, okay, Steve Jobs says that you should work in a team and that the product that you make, you should just be one click away. Okay, one click away, what an amazing thing, simplicity and working in a team. Another great leader says, well, reward your people well. We could read even the biography of Julius Caesar, where they say, reward your leading generals well. And trait theory then also says, well, let's create a list of the personal characteristics or traits that make a leader great. So on top of the list is probably something like stamina, which means they will pull through even under difficult circumstances. Another trait could be they are inspirational. They can inspire people to do great things, etc., etc. So personally, well, what can I say? Personally, well, it is one approach to leadership. And again, it never hurts to read the biography of somebody. I wouldn't necessarily say that it should only be a biography of a great leader. You could also read a biography of a not so great leader, but use biographies to reflect and to think about your own circumstances. At the same time, I have a problem with calling certain people great, which then automatically makes other people's not so great. I mean, the fact that you were a Polish immigrant who didn't speak English and had to go to America to escape from famine, and that you worked in a factory of Ford rather than being Henry Ford, doesn't make you, in my eyes, less great. You just had a different challenge. You had to be able to survive, get out of Poland, and get a job in US and learn the language, and you decided to work in a factory. Henry Ford had other circumstances. So again, interesting to learn from leaders, but it also has a specific danger that actually we become disempowered by giving all this authority to leaders. Behavioral leadership. I will not spend so much time on this. It will be the last slide for this clip. But it actually says that it examines what a leader actually does. And it is based on behaviorism. And for those who remember, behaviorism says, let's study behavior, let's check it, rather than finding out cognitively what happens in the brain. But let's look what people really do. So behavioral leadership is useful because it basically says, I'm going to observe what this guy or girl does. Oh, she picks up the phone and has a phone call. Oh, she goes and sits with personnel and orders them to do things. Oh, he does this, he does that. So in the behavioral leadership is checking what they do and sometimes also putting it together. For example, Blake and Mouton have created a model where they say, well, some leaders are very task focused, other leaders are very people focused, and then you have some mixtures. And that again depends on the particular behavior that they show. And again, as you notice in many of those magazines, you often have tests which show your particular leadership